All right, welcome back, Chris. Here's my question to you, and I want to hear what other guys have to say, or anyone else that wants to call. Other ladies, feel free to call in here. 412-575-2600. Chris, so I posed this to Pony at 4 o'clock. I want to hear your opinion now. Who do you think's the better quarterback right now? Who would you rather have as your quarterback on your team? I'm not talking about fantasy football. I'm talking about if you were the GM and you were leading the team just for 1 year, just for the year, and the rest of the year. Not for the future, just now. Ben or Lamar?
It's a lot closer than it was previously, but I'll take Lamar Jackson by a whisker here. I'm assuming, too, that I'm getting a Lamar Jackson where, like any great quarterback, the offense is tailored to his strengths like it absolutely has been for him since he was with Baltimore, especially since they got Greg Roman to really overhaul things. The reason I take Jackson is not to hate on Roethlisberger, to say he's not that good. He's played, all but 2 really good quarters of football for the most part, really controlled football this season. Jackson's legs are still so dynamic. I know that Ravens rushing offense, the numbers are still good, but it's not purely as fearsome as it was last year. But there are so many ways Jackson can hurt you if he is given the time to do so. And he is a good deep ball thrower. He's getting better, I think, at the short stuff. Where he's allowing his receivers to run after the catch. He just strikes me as somebody where you have to pick your poison, and if he gets ahead in a game, then you're pretty much completely done because of what he's able to do to dictate terms to a defense.
You could probably guess who Pony and I went with. We went opposite. Went with Ben. If you're talking about 1 game to win the rest of the year, I like Ben. I think he looks as one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Maybe a top 5 quarterback, poised back there.
Well, let me ask you, though, okay, did that second half against Tennessee and then the way he was kind of defiant about the throw to Smith-Schuster that sort of opened the door for Tennessee to have that final drive that ends in a missed field goal, did that not give you a little bit of pause about maybe where his mindset's at? Hey, I came out, I had a great first half, I'm going to gunsling it around and prove a point. That's not the guy I want playing quarterback. He has to realize that less can be more, and he will get the credit if this team has a crazy good season, even if his numbers aren't spectacular.
I get it a little bit, but let's use this analogy. We both know the game of golf. Say you're even par, and you're playing well, and you're bombing your drives, and now you're going to try to go for a short par 4. You're going to do it. Let's do it. I'm playing well right now. I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to gamble a little bit. I don't mind it.
Richie, you've seen me go for those short par 4s. Sometimes I hit them out of bounds, and then you've got to bail me out with a 35-foot putt.
You're right about
here's the thing with Jackson. If it's for 1 game, like if it's that 1-game scenario, I'm sorry. You are giving a defensive coordinator much more to prepare for with Jackson's skill set, whether it's as polished and as refined as Roethlisberger's is when Roethlisberger's on, is almost irrelevant to me. The legs, the total package that Jackson brings to the table just makes him very dangerous and very hard to predict.
Ben knows how to win in the postseason. Lamar Jackson does not. Let's go out to Ed in Pittsburgh. How you doing, Ed?
Good, fellas. How you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good.
I kind of agree with what you said, Rich. I would go with Ben, and I'm not trying to give the homer answer here because I think Lamar Jackson's incredible. But I think the thing is with Ben is he makes the players around him better for the most part. Lamar Jackson's completely dependent on everything being suited to him specifically. So if you're in a playoff game, 1 game left, or a Super Bowl, there's a couple injuries. I think you're better off with Ben in that scenario than you would be Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying here, Ed. You bring up a couple good points. Also, Lamar Jackson's still one-dimensional. You need a guy that can come back and win you games. I don't know if there's still that we don't know, that unknown out there of Lamar Jackson. Can he pass his way to a victory?
I mean, he's done that.
A comeback victory.
Because I'm sure he's come back from a couple of deficits in his career. I don't have them off the top of my head. But because the legs are so pyrotechnic there, I think it's easy to ignore the fact that he is devastating with his arm. He threw 36 touchdowns last year against just 6 picks. Here's what I would love to see, though. I mean, I think this is a wild card. If you gave Lamar Jackson the Steelers' receiving core, what would he look like? We just acknowledged in the open to the show here that he has very little help at receiver. His best pass-catching threat is Mark Andrews. Hollywood Brown is up and down. You gave him Chase Claypool. You gave him a couple other guys, Deontay Johnson. I wonder what the result would be.
But the offense would be different. So would you have those receivers? I mean, that's the dilemma we're in right now. I mean, you'd still have those receivers, but they would not be maybe into the game as much because they don't throw the ball as much.
They've tailored it to him by having great running backs, and they're going to get one of those guys back, it looks like, in fully healthy in Ingram, you would think.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that having his full stable of backs that complement him and keep defenses guessing is going to make him better. I'll concede this point, though, just in case people think that, I'm obstinate because I've been moving stuff all day. If Roethlisberger plays like he did the first 5.5 games of this season, I think there's a very good chance they win, and I would take him. That version of Ben is a spectacular player when needed and very efficient when he doesn't need to be spectacular. I just am very put off by what I saw in the second half of the Tennessee game.
Yeah, I didn't like. He forced a couple balls that I did not like. I agree there. Let's go out to Bruce in Youngwood. How you doing, Bruce?
Yeah, hey, Richie. Hey, guys. Listen, I want to ask you a question. Okay, talking about Ben versus Jackson. I looked at Jackson last year in the playoff games, okay, and he totally choked against Kansas City. If I had the choice between Ben and Lamar Jackson, Ben is overall, he ran the tables where they were a wild card, and they had to win every game.
Has he beaten Kansas City since Patrick Mahomes got there, though? Has Roethlisberger? Because he and Jackson are combined 0 for. Listen,
Bruce,
Lamar Jackson's record is.
Well, I wanted to, he's gone, but I wanted to, I understand that was in the past, though. I'm talking about this year. Like the version we've seen of Ben right now, who I think is playing well outside of those last two quarters.
The Ravens are still very good, but the Ravens are not the juggernaut right now. They don't cut the profile for me of the juggernaut that they were last season. I don't really think that's arguable. That team was a force of nature for almost the majority or the entirety of last year. In fact, the reason I was so impressed by that first Steelers game last year against Baltimore that they ended up losing was because they were one of the few teams that didn't get their doors blown off. That hasn't been the version of the Ravens that's shown up this year. They're 5-1, but they don't look invincible like they did at times last season.
Before we get to another call, let me ask you this. Does Devin Bush not being there, how much of an issue is that for this defense and maybe trying to spy a guy like Lamar Jackson? I mean, I know they're going with Spillane, and he can stop the run, but he's not as fast and as dynamic as a guy like Bush.
Well, think about how much of a threat Jackson is with his legs no matter what's happening, right? And then think if you're Spillane, you see some of that zone read stuff. Is he going to pull it? Is he going to run with it? Is he going to drop back and throw it? I think it's going to keep Spillane guessing, and a player who's guessing and trying to think his way too much instead of just react out there is going to be in trouble. I would not be surprised in this game if the Ravens are able to exploit the Steelers between the hash marks with some little seam throws for Jackson.
All right, we got to take a break, but before we go to break, we're going to our Tri-State Office Furniture tweet of the night, and this is from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look at who leads the league in tackles for losses with 12 each. That's Vince Williams and T.J. Watt, number one right there. We'll see what happens this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. Should be a tough task trying to tackle Ingram and Jackson back there for losses. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes.